Peter's got a problem, and the problem's got a glider. Here's a look at the Diamond Select Marvel Green Goblin Gallery Diorama statue. A powerful businessman, industrialist Norman Osborn gained superhuman abilities during a lab accident in which he was testing an experimental serum. Left mentally deranged as a side effect of the transformation, Osborn set about to wreak havoc on the street of New York as the costume criminal known as the Green Goblin. Despite his reoccurring maniacal efforts to sow chaos throughout the city, the Goblin is kept at bay by the heroic efforts of his longtime arch-nemesis, the Amazing Spider-Man. This gallery diorama of the Green Goblin is based on his appearance in Marvel Comics. It features detailed sculpting and paint details and is made of high-quality PVC. It also features a hole-for-wall mounting. While Osborn makes other arrangements with his alter ego, I'm going to grab the tape measure here and see how tall the gallery statue of Green Goblin is. While I'm doing this as well, I'd like to thank the folks over at Diamond Select that did provide this sample we could have a look at. If we go to the very top of its hand, and you're looking at the statue of Green Goblin being 14 inches in height, or it's going to be 35 centimeters tall. Yes, you did hear right. This can be mounted onto the wall. First picking up the display stand and getting a closer look at the cloudy bottom. The base itself looks like it's probably been cast here in a translucent clear PVC plastic, and for the obvious reasons of wanting to put this onto the shelf, the bottom of the base is completely flat. What they have also done, and one of the first times I've seen this, the back of the base is actually flat as well. You'll see that there's two holes that are on the back that then you take your screws on the wall and you slide these in place, and then this can be mounted on the wall. Two things, unfortunately, by mounting this on the wall is obviously by making this flat so it would then sit flush onto a shelf. It will result in this kind of looking unfinished and being completely flat if you're just having this suspended on the wall like this. My other concern with this is also the fact that even though it is PVC plastic, PVC would be a lot lighter of a material than resin, for example, you're still dealing with a fair bit of weight. And on the back of this, by only the areas where this is going to be mounting by screws, you can see that instead of this being part of the actual base, this is a separate rectangular piece of PVC plastic. My guess is they've seamed it in place and glued it in place. So there's an adhesive kind of keeping everything there. But with the weight of this and sitting only on two screws, I would worry that this seam would give way eventually and the statue would fall off the shelf. So even though it is designed in such a way that you can have it displayed in two different ways, I don't know if I will be displaying this mounting on the wall just for the risks I've already mentioned. Instead, rather, I'm going to be putting it on the shelf, as you can see right now. Now, I love the way they've colored this. Obviously, this is the flaming smoke that would be projected out the back of his Goblin glider. Done here again in the translucent clear plastic, but nicely colored with all this additional orange. The actual base does attach by the Goblin glider by this section right here. It kind of looks like a little PVC hose. I wish they could have added a little bit of texturing this around this area as well, because it literally looks like just the Goblin glider is attached by clearly just a PVC pole like this. The glider itself, as you can see, looks like it's been hand forged. Looks like it probably would have been starting as a dark plastic, a PVC plastic, and then they probably just brushed the silver over top of it. It's bolted in the areas where, of course, the glider would have been put together section by section. And, of course, perched on top of that is the Goblin himself. The Goblin is a classic-looking Green Goblin, one of my personal favorite designs of the character. I prefer this one over that monstrosity monster that the Ultimate Spider-Man had to contend with. No, give me classic Goblin any day of the week. Goblin, for example, is probably within my top 5 favorite super villains in the comic books, and just always have loved this look of the character. The face sculpt is classic Goblin in every way whatsoever. I mean, obviously, the face sculpt is that of a mask. You get the large beady eyes that he has with these little pin drop pupils in the middle of them, colored nicely there in yellow. The tops and the bottoms of his teeth are painted well in white. I don't see really any paint problems at all. Even the interior of his tongue is nicely colored here in pink. He's got the little flaps there on the sides. Again, these are all PVC plastic, and very large elf ears that he has on the back. There's nothing, again, I really would have changed the face whatsoever. Not only is the costuming looking good, but also the way they've added the wrinkles. So, for example, his little elf hat that he has, spindly and spirally, you can see the way it twists naturally and leaving some really cool and interesting wrinkles that he has. One thing that Diamond always does really well when it comes to their gallery statue releases is by having the fabric on these suits drape naturally onto characters. You can see by the way it would have twisted naturally here on his tunic. You got some wrinkles that have developed here, and it really does look quite natural when it comes to the sculpting of the statue. Now, his scales are obvious that in only his arms and his legs. His mask doesn't have it. You can see the way they've sculpted those are nicely done. They have a bit of a metallic sheen to it. It looks actually like they would have started with a darker coloring of green and then brushed a lighter green over top to allow those scales to stand out. Of course, one of the other things that he also has, any goblin would have it, obviously, is he's got a little satchel bag. The bag, while being loose, looks like it's been glued right here and right here in the top of his shoulders. So while this looks to be separate, my guess is they probably glued it in place so it wouldn't be flopping around on you. And it's nicely sculpted for really what it is. But the other thing that Goblin is always known for having is clearly his pumpkin bombs. One, as you can see, has already been lit. There's a little bit of translucent yellow plastic at the top of the actual pumpkin. And then the other one, while not currently lit, does have nicely, though, the painted triangular eyes and the jagged little mouth that he has below as well. It's an all in all a really nice looking statue. From a sculpting standpoint, at least of the actual goblin, there's nothing at all I really would have changed to it. Now, for the bottom of the base, though, that's one thing. I do think that if you were to say, look at the statue, I mean, there's this much statue, and over almost half of it is just the clouded bottom base. I wish they could have reduced the amount of sizing that the cloud actually takes up, so the goblin would still have been the subject of the statue. Because right now he's really occupying and sharing that same sort of attention space as the actual base that he has. I would have maybe just made the cloud a little bit smaller than what it is. And honestly, for me, like, even though they did take the time and add something really creative in that you can mount this on the wall, I don't know if I like the idea. Because again, like, this is only glued around the edges of the actual rectangle, whether this would be something that would fall off. Because again, it has to really sit on essentially two screws mounting onto the wall. Would that just be the weight of it alone? Probably start to pry this away from the actual plastic of the base. And if maybe Green Goblin would take a tumble, I really would not want that to happen. So even though they did think outside the box when it came to designing Goblin in a way that you could display it, not only just on the actual shelf, but on a wall as well. It's a creative way that they've designed it, but I think I'd rather, for the safety of Goblin not falling, I'd just rather instead have the figure displayed or have the statue displayed on a shelf instead. Here in final looks of the PVC gallery statue of the Green Goblin, there's half the statue that I really like and the other half I'm not as crazy about. The most important part that I like is the Green Goblin that's perched on top of his Goblin glider. He's perfect. There's nothing at all I really would have changed. Not only is the pose really good, I like the maniacal look that they've sculpted his face, and he's painted perfectly. The part that I'm not as crazy about, honestly, is the clouded base that he has. First of all, I feel like there's a lot of cloud happening here. It may work, for example, for a character like Mysterio, but I think for Goblin, even though he has smoke coming out the back of his glider, I think there might be a little too much of it. And I'm thinking only from the standpoint of putting it on the shelf. Because like half the actual statue is the display base itself. I think probably they could have made it a little bit smaller than what they have it right now. Now, may have had something also to do with the fact that they wanted to put, of course, the feature on the back of the base where you could mount this on the wall. If that was the reason, I think maybe they probably should have just sacrificed the hangability of the statue in favor of a slightly smaller base. Keeping in mind, though, the idea that this can be mounted on the wall, good idea on paper, but I don't know if it's an idea that's going to execute well if you actually have this on the shelf. If you're having this mounted on a wall, for example, bolting it in place by only two screws, obviously you're going to want to make sure you got wall anchors in the wall anyway, so it's not ripping away any of the drywall. But I think also the weight of it down the road, you got to think that that would probably start to rip away that rectangular piece of PVC plastic that they put on the back of it. They probably put it there for stability because of the hollow nature of that plastic base. It would be too hollowy, I feel, to support the weight of it. So they probably put a reinforced piece of PVC plastic in there to ensure that it wasn't going to tear the back of the plastic. But that still being the case, I think it may be too heavy of a statue to try to run the risk of putting this actually mounted onto a wall. What do you guys think of Green Goblin? Let me know down below in the comments section. You guys also like the idea of this can be, as a statue, can be mounted on the wall? Or do you think they should have just kept this as being something that would just go on a shelf? Let me know down below in the comments section. And in the meantime, though, I'd like to thank the folks over at Diamond Select that did provide this sample of the gallery diorama statue of the classic Green Goblin that we could have a look in this review. If you guys did enjoy this video, I want to hit with a like. If you guys are loving the content you guys are seeing and you'd like to stick around for more, if you haven't already done so, make sure you hit that subscribe button down below and you're turning on the bell notification. If you want a little bit more Diamond Select, or you want to check out some other statues I've done here on this channel, well then pop in at the very end of this video will be a playlist not only for Diamond Select, but also as well a playlist for other statues I've looked at here on this channel. That includes some of the gallery statues from Diamond Select. That also includes the Premier Collection, resin statues, everything you want for a statue fix you'll find find in that statue playlist. We're going to have a lot more videos coming your way, guys. So, of course, as always, thanks for watching. See you guys next time.